Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you all here today to the 56th Annual General Meeting of the Irish Farmers Association. When I took office as President a year ago, Irish farmers had endured two extremely difficult years. The global recession hit agriculture early and hard. Farm incomes collapsed by 40% between 2007 and 2009. In addition, farm families, like other households, had to cope with rising unemployment as family members lost off-farm jobs. A year ago, in response to the income crisis in farming, I set out my top priorities. The urgent need for farm incomes and producer prices to rise. The achievement of a meaningful replacement for reps. The protection of our single farm payment in the CAP 2013 negotiations, and the reduction of bureaucracy and costs for farmers. Everyone in IFA has worked extremely hard over the past year, and I want to recap on some of the main issues we have tackled. In the first place, overall farm product prices increased in 2010 as global markets started to recover. After serious producer losses in recent years, IFA campaigned hard to restore milk, lamb and grain prices to viable levels. However, the price improvement was not uniform. Beef prices only improved in the second half of the year, while liquid milk, fresh produce and especially the pig sector remain under severe price pressure. While producer prices are generally moving in the right direction, they still have some way to go, especially with escalating costs to meet farmers' legitimate expectation of securing a viable income from the marketplace. It was a tough battle to secure a worthwhile successor for reps, but we succeeded, and the new AEOS scheme is vitally important to maintaining viability on thousands of low-income farms. Already 9,000 farmers have joined the new environmental scheme, and the department budget opened the way for a further 10,000 farmers. In our pre-budget campaign, IFA officers across the country successfully made a strong case to maintain full funding for all our vital farm schemes, including disadvantaged areas, suckler cow, reps, AEOS and forestry. A positive outcome to the nitrates review was critical to our expansion plans in agriculture. We secured the 250 kilograms derogation for dairy and livestock sector and the extension of the pig and poultry provisions, as well as an increase in N&P for malting and spring barley. IFA also made sure that the river basin management plans will not exceed the nitrates requirements. In the livestock sector, once again, we actively pursued market access and strongly defended live exports against threatened EU restrictions. Live exports were up 18% to 340,000 head. IFA worked hard to deliver animal health savings worth €22.5 million per year on brucellosis, TB and BSE testing. We headed off unworkable proposals for separate herd numbers. In the sheep sector, IFA finally secured the 18 million annual sheep package, and I am looking to the Minister to pay out the €10 per ewe immediately. In recent weeks, the 120 million final tranche of the Farm Waste Management Scheme has been paid. The interest is now due and must be paid. IFA has also secured a commitment of the 90 million towards targeted measures in pig and poultry welfare, dairy equipment, sheep handling and fencing and water harvesting over the next 3 years. When farm women's pensions were stopped, IFA demanded justice and got them restored. We challenged the input costs across the board, securing worthwhile reductions in fertilisers, sprays, farm accounts and waste plastic. On farm labour costs, IFA negotiated valuable new flexibilities. For malt and barley growers, IFA negotiated $1 million for those who lost their contracts. We have established good working relations with the new owners, Boar Malt, gaining full contract price for an additional 40,000 tonnes and underpinning the future of our malt industry. When Groom's vegetable suppliers went into receivership, leaving 20 growers unpaid, IFA negotiated with the bank and the new owner to secure 60 cents in the euro. On these and many other issues, real progress has been made, and this highlights the extent of IFA's work on behalf of farmers. I want to take this opportunity to thank our national officers, the National Committee Chairman, the County Chairman, and all the members and officers throughout the country who worked and supported our campaign during the past year. The turnaround in product prices is the main factor behind the recovery in farm incomes. We estimate average farm income in 2010 was up 33%. Despite this, the current average income of €16,500 is only 40% of average industrial wages. Improving farm income remains a top priority for IFA in 2011. In 2010, farm output increased by €500 million, pushing up the value of food and drink exports by €800 million to €8 billion. Our agri-food industry is the largest Irish-owned productive sector. Because it is Irish-owned and has very low import requirements, profit outflows from the country are very low, and the sector is deeply embedded in the Irish economy. Overall, there are 250,000 people employed in the wider agri-economy, representing almost 20% of the workforce outside Ireland. Since taking over as President, I have relentlessly promoted the importance of our sector to this economy. At last, our contribution as farmers is again being recognised. In the four-year plan and in last month's budget, the Government specifically acknowledged the contribution of farming and the food sector to our export-led recovery. The Government's commitment to farm schemes, and in particular the reopening of the AOS scheme in 2011, is vitally important. Today I am calling on Minister Smith to reopen the AOS scheme immediately. Food Harvest 2020 sets out ambitious but achievable targets for the agriculture sector over the next decade. Ireland has the potential to increase farm gate output by 1.5 billion, with an increase in exports to €12 billion. The growth achieved in 2010 alone shows that these targets can be reached. However, the climate change bill threatens to block progress and prevent us from realising our potential to help meet the rising global demand for food, and we can do this with one of the most sustainable models of food production in the world. I want to make it absolutely clear that the future of 128,000 farm families and the future of our economy cannot be jeopardised by the irrational ideology of the Greens in the dying days of this government. Today I am calling on all senators and TDs to put jobs, exports and economic recovery first, and to reject this bill until the legitimate concerns of our agri-food sector are dealt with. We all know there will be continuing pressure on public finances over the next 4 to 5 years, but achieving growth must remain at the centre of public policy. Funding for farm schemes and the continuation of farm-specific tax reliefs are vital for the future growth of our agriculture sector. The REPS, AEOS, Suckler Cow, Forestry and Disadvantaged Area schemes provide an important stimulus for jobs and exports. The benefits are redistributed across the country through expenditure by farmers on locally provided inputs, labour, goods and services. Any changes to taxation must not damage the productive capacity of agriculture. The key taxation reliefs to encourage restructuring, land mobility, investment and to increase scale and capital must be fully retained. In recent months I have met both Enda Kenny and Eamon Gilmore and have discussed with them the value of agriculture and its growth potential. As we start 2011, we're only weeks away from a spring general election. Protection of vital farm schemes and retention of essential farm taxation reliefs to facilitate growth will be key elements in IFA's election manifesto. All political parties have received this message loud and clear in advance of the publication of their own manifestos. Hear, hear. 2011 will be another critical year for negotiations on the EU and CAP budgets, and I have made this a top priority for IFA's agenda. Not only does the CAP support our family farm structure, it also provides a secure supply of high-quality food to European consumers, with guarantees on traceability and the highest environmental standards. The CAP has delivered reasonable prices to EU consumers, who now spend less than 13% of their household budgets on food, compared with 30% in the early 1980s. The disadvantaged areas is a key support to farmers. This scheme must be retained as part of the Rural Development Programme, and in the areas currently included must be protected in ongoing EU review. Looking forward, the CAP is more important than ever, as the rapid rise in global population creates increased demand for sustainable food production, with growing pressure on land and water resources. However, there are real threats to the Irish agriculture in the ongoing CAP negotiations. There are strong demands for the redistribution of funds to Eastern Europe and for the greening of CAP, whereby resources would be redirected from food production towards environmental measures. IFA is actively building alliances with like-minded farm organisations and policymakers in Europe to safeguard our interest in these negotiations. This time last year, I stated my absolute determination to defend our single farm payment. Today I am saying again to this government, to any new government and to our MEPs, you must hold the line and retain the existing payment model and 100% of the single farm payment for our active farmers. Hear, hear, hear.